As we covered yesterday, Duke's volleyball team played at Brigham Young University over the weekend. Serving on your screen is Rachel Richardson. She's speaking out on what she endured. Richardson, a sophomore from Ellicott City, Maryland, is an outside hitter for the Blue Devils. As she was serving, Richardson heard racial slurs directed at her from the crowd. Recent reports have indicated it was from a fan with his two sons, not the student section. However, Richardson's godmother, Lisa Pamplin, went public at the match's conclusion. Rachel, she says, was called the N-word and is the only black starter on the squad. She was threatened by a white male that told her to watch her back going back to the team bus.
At last night's game, there were some egregious and hurtful slurs that were directed at members of the Duke University women's volleyball team.
Where many say athletic director Holmo fails is in this address to the fans.
The process to get better and to heal has already begun, as you can see, and you'll see a little bit more often.
Not once did he call it what it was. He used the words hurtful and egregious, which it was. Of course, it was. But he left out one word in particular, and it felt almost purposeful. And that word is racist. It was racist. I don't know why it is so hard for so many people in these specific positions to use it. And he failed. Rachel's father, Marvin, who was appointed as a deputy director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives on June 4th, 2021, spoke with CNN.
After the game, we always talk, and she called, but this was a different call, right? So she was crying, she was upset, and Rachel's not the person who calls and cries over a loss. It's just not who she is. She's been playing the game for a long time. So we knew something was wrong, and then as she started to tell us what was going on and what had happened during the game, needless to say, first, anger, outrage, and then, just a real need to make sure that something was done to correct that were the things that kind of came across us.
More from Mr. Richardson in a moment. However, Rachel's statement read in part, "My fellow African American teammates and I were targeted and racially heckled throughout the entirety of the match. The slurs and comments grew into threats, which caused us to feel unsafe. Both the officials and BYU coaching staff were made aware of the incident during the game, but failed to take the necessary steps to stop the unacceptable behavior and create a safe environment."
As a competitor, she just didn't want this to take her away from her game, right? To take her out of her game. So she, hearing this, played through it and really had to just kind of, struggle to focus on the game, And so I think that, when you start talking about what that does to an athlete and their ability to perform at the highest level under those circumstances, just not right, especially not in that kind of a college arena.
Per Yahoo Sports' Shalise Manza-Young, the fan did not get ejected, though was banned the next day. School officials, the BYU coaching staff, and Duke coaches, per Young, did not do enough to protect these players. They could have halted play. They could have walked off the court, yet as Young puts it, they chose indifference. Dave Zirin agreed, writing, "It is utterly unacceptable that Duke's coach did not pull her entire team off the court until this had been dealt with and removed." Richardson admitted that the slurs directed at her took a mental toll on her playing ability, but she refused to let it stop her from playing.
They made it known what was happening, and at the point in between games, the two different sets when it happened between the second and the fourth sets, that's when they're at the student end of the court. And at some point, they moved a police officer down to the student's end of the court. And perhaps that's the That's an action, but is that the only action that should be taken? I don't think so.
Action was also attempted to be taken after the match. Marvin would tell the Salt Lake Tribune that a meeting was arranged for early Saturday with AD Holmo and BYU women's volleyball coach Heather Olmstead. The former, per Marvin, showed up. The latter, Olmstead, did not. Today, AD Holmo disagreed with Mr. Richardson's assessment, claiming he was the person who made the decision to represent BYU at the meeting with Rachel Saturday morning.
If you would have met her, you would have loved her. But you don't know her, and so you don't feel that way.
Holmo resorted to the insulting notion that since Holmo found her charming and pleasant, that she was not that kind of black person. You know, the kind it's okay to shower with anti-black hatred during a volleyball match, then BYU fans were wrong to abuse her and her teammates, wrote Young. It appears that BYU has a past with which it refuses to reckon, meaning it has a present that still contains this element of rot. If there was ever a place that needed a reckoning, it is Brigham Young. And if this happens, it will be because a sophomore named Rachel Richardson and her teammates decided to be the only adults in the room.